Retriever.
No one.
All right, we are back and better than ever. Welcome to the Gators Online Show. I am Keith Niebuhr. That is Zach Albaverdi of Gators Online, of course. That's why it's called the Gators Online Show. We've got a lot to talk about. Zach's been covering this football program at the University of Florida like nobody, and we've got a lot of great intel. We're going to go over some injuries, give you the latest on what's going on with some Florida players that have been banged up. We're going to tell you who has shined thus far in Florida's 2 scrimmages, and we've got some other stuff to chat about. But first off, Zach, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, Keith. You know, we're almost to the season. I've been watching these NFL preseason games, and I don't know how much longer they can hold me over. I need some college football.
I haven't turned in, 1 second of those games, not for 1 second of the preseason games. Been fixated on this golf, this PGA Tour, and obviously Gator football camp. And Zach, last Saturday, scrimmage number 2. And obviously the big news coming out of that was that, again, DJ Lagway, Florida's projected starting quarterback, did not take part in the 11-on-11 portion of this, the practice, which is the scrimmage. And we're going to get into that part in just a couple of moments. But what were some of your big takeaways from this second scrimmage? And if you want to add in, a composite here of the first and second scrimmage, go out ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. This was obviously an important scrimmage for Florida because it's the last time they're going to be in a setting like that before the season in the swamp. They'll do some 11-on-11 work and practice, obviously, during game week before LIU, but this is their last go-around like that in training camp. They'll have a few more practices this week, but it was their chance to kind of really establish probably some depth for the final time, get their depth chart kind of set for the season opener. And my understanding is while some starters got work in the scrimmage, this was a day for a lot of the backups and second and third team players to really show what they can do and kind of show where they stand heading into the season. So that's why you saw a lot of guys like, Amir Jackson, TJ Abrams, Nashawn Montgomery. Those were the guys that caught touchdown passes in the scrimmage. So a lot of players got some work and opportunities in the second scrimmage. The first time around, VB3, there were some other stars that the first time they went out there in the swamp. This past Saturday, KD Daniels, it sounds like he made his mark. He had a big run. I mentioned the touchdown catch for TJ Abrams. That was a big play in the scrimmage. And Jaden Woods, a guy that we've been writing about, talking about all offseason. He's another guy that showed up on defense, one of 2 guys to make an interception. And probably the play of the day on defense, Keith, was a 100-yard pick 6 by Michael Caraway. So just gave him a lot of juice there that they could chew on. But it was despite not having Lagway out there, it was still a productive scrimmage, and they got a lot out of it.
All right, so the perfect transition here. You just made it easy for me. Not having Lagway out there meant that Aiden Warner, returning sophomore, who was a walk-on last year, now on scholarship, started in the Texas game when DJ was hurt and didn't play. Harrison Bailey, the graduate transfer from Louisville, and true freshman Trell Jones, they got a lot of snaps. So what can you tell us about maybe the order right now? Look, there's a long way between now and August 30th when Florida plays host to Long Island University in that season opener. But who looked good the other day? Who's done well in camp? And do you have any idea where things stand right now in that pecking order? Because obviously we're going to get into DJ Lagway's health in a couple of minutes here, but it's important. It's always important to know who your number 2 is, but maybe more so now than ever.
Yeah, Keith, it's interesting because after the first scrimmage, it looked like, and it sounded like, should I say, based on our sources, that that was really Harrison Bailey's opportunity to kind of take that job because he got a lot of work with the starting offense, more so even than Aiden Warner. When they did the 2-minute offense, however, Aiden Warner was actually the guy leading the starters, and he was the one that threw that touchdown pass to Vernell Brown III that everybody saw on Twitter after the first scrimmage. That was in 2-minute offense. But the rest of that first scrimmage, it was actually Bailey was the guy that was getting the majority of the reps with the starting offense. So, they gave Warner some work as well. And I believe Napier said that they even gave Trell Jones a series with the starting offense in that first scrimmage. Well, In the second scrimmage, things changed. It was much more of Aiden Warner and Trell Jones and much less Harrison Bailey. Harrison Bailey did play. He had a short touchdown run in the second scrimmage this past Saturday, but it was clear from the folks that watched it that we talked to, Keith, that right now, I'll emphasize, right now, it seems like Aiden Warner has the edge heading into the season opener. Now, like I mentioned, they don't end training camp until Wednesday. Then they still have a whole nother week of prep leading into the season. So I don't think that there's much separation between the three quarterbacks behind DJ. So things could change. Having said that, it is very clear that they are giving more to Trell, and he's doing more. He's producing more, and I don't think that it's far off to see him get an opportunity early in the season, Keith, especially if Lagway is going to be limited at all, which we'll get into. But it doesn't sound, again, like there's much separation. I think clearly some of these other guys have advantages over Trell, but there are some things that he does better than them. And it's clear that he is the future for the quarterback position behind DJ Lagway, and I think that they're going to do everything they can to give him some opportunities, especially in that first game.
All right, we're going to talk about Trell Jones in just a second, but I want to move back to Aiden Warner. I think he started his college career at Yale, transferred to Florida. He's a Central Florida boy, transferred to Florida as a walk-on. And Clay Millen was brought in from Colorado State last year to really challenge for that number 3 job, because I always forget at the beginning of the year it was Graham Mertz. It was Graham Mertz and then DJ Lagway and Clay Millen. So Millen, having experience at Colorado State, if he does well, maybe you say, and something happens to Graham Mertz, you say, well, maybe we give this guy a shot. But I don't think it really materialized. And DJ Lagway made such great progress. When Graham Mertz went down, it was the DJ Lagway show. But Clay Millen, as he kind of went down the depth chart, Aiden Warner went up the depth chart. Okay, I hope that all made sense to everybody listening. I get my tongue gets twisted all the time. But Aiden Warner was the guy who went in when Lagway became 1, Warner became 2, right? So when DJ Lagway was injured against Georgia, it was Aiden Warner who finished the game. When DJ Lagway couldn't play against Texas, it was Aiden Warner who started that game. Now, Zach, that was a lot to get to this. He didn't look like he had a strong arm last year. Just didn't look, he went out there and played. He looked like he could barely get the ball 30 yards down the field. So we go out and we watch him in the spring, and we see him in fall camp, and this guy's arm is actually pretty dang good. Okay, he's got a really strong arm. I don't know what the situation was last year. Probably one of those paralysis from analysis deals, Zach, where you're thrown into the fire. You're not thinking. The brain and the arm aren't in sync, and it's not clicking. The ball's just not coming off your hand. But Zach, does he look like he's throwing the ball pretty well right now? You've been to a lot of scrimmages, you've been to a lot of the open media windows at practice this year. What do you think of Aiden Warner? Do you see improvement from these small windows that we have from last year?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely improved, and I think that he's gotten better. I do think that there are times that maybe you'll see Harrison Bailey throw a better ball or a better looking ball. I think that Trell's got some zip on his throws too. But Aiden Warner is a guy that last year, like you mentioned, Keith, thrown into the fire. It wasn't just that. Like he went through – he was a late arrival that didn't go through spring, came in the summer, was a walk-on upon arrival, wasn't getting any reps with the first or second team offense, obviously. And then in the middle of the year, now all of a sudden he's the backup, and then, now all of a sudden you're the starter. Did not have the development, did not have the time to learn the offense the way that he needed to. I'm sure what he could run out of the playbook was very limited. And that's just simply not where he's at anymore. He's had a whole offseason. He's had a spring. He's had all these reps because DJ has been out. And he's gotten comfortable in this system and with this team. So the Aiden Warner that you saw at Texas against one of the best teams in the country last year in his first career start is not going to be the guy that plays this season. He's a different quarterback. However, there's, I think he can only take you so far. And that's why we're still talking about Harrison Bailey, why Trell Jones is still getting those opportunities. I think right now the reason Aiden has the edge is because he probably knows this offense better than the other two, and he can operate and execute what the coaches want him to do better than the other two. And I don't know if that's going to change before we get to the season. I don't think it will. However, there are some things that Harrison Bailey can do that I don't know that Aiden can provide. One, he's got the experience. He's played as a starter in a Power Four teams. He's played well too. He just had a great bowl game with Louisville. So he has that under his belt, and his deep ball and just his arm talent and strength is better than Aiden. So you've got that. And then you we've talked about Trammell. So it's going to be interesting, Keith. I think regardless of Lagway's usage, which we're about to get into, I think we might see all three of those quarterbacks in that first game, regardless of what happens with DJ.
Oh, wow. All right, Trell Jones. So it was either a year or two ago. I want to say it was even 2 summers ago. I was at a 7-on-7 camp at UF, and I met Trell Jones, and he was committed to FSU at the time. He's not super tall, 6 foot. In other words, when you see DJ Lagway, man, he looks like Dante Culpepper. I mean, he stands out. Trell just looked like another guy. And found out that Florida really liked him, and we talked, and he said, "Oh yeah, they talk to me all the time. They say they're going to recruit me to the end," and I didn't think much of it. He was never really a highly ranked player for whatever reason. Well, then last spring and summer there was a lot of chatter about Florida and Trell Jones, and ultimately Florida State had that horrible season, whatever you would call it, and Trell Jones decommitted from Florida State and ended up in Florida. Now he did not play much his senior season, Zach. He had some major leg injuries that happened early in the year. I want to say game 2. So he missed most of his senior season. But if you look at his career at Jacksonville Mandarin, a deep playoff run his junior year, over 7,000 career passing yards, started for almost, much of his freshman season, all of his sophomore season, all of his junior season, and obviously would have started his entire senior season if he wouldn't have been injured. Early enrolls at Florida, still limited in spring camp. So they didn't even really get the full Trell Jones in spring camp. Now he's at 100%. What is it that he is impressing teammates and coaches with in Florida? Because he's got a strong arm. He ain't the biggest kid in the world, but he's got a strong arm. That whole body gets into it. He's a smart kid. You've talked to him. I've talked to him both many times. But what is it that the staff likes about this kid? What's given – then but Billy Napier said, "Hey, this guy's worth the hype." So what is it they like about him?
Well, first of all, he throws a beautiful ball. It's interesting watching him throw in camp. He doesn't always have the velocity. He doesn't put the air under it sometimes that the other guys do. But man, he throws with some zip on those passes. But when he does throw a deep ball, he does let it fly, and I've seen it firsthand. We've seen it at practice. He's got the arm talent, and he's got arm strength. I think what has allowed him to get himself in a position where he's contending for a backup role is all the things that you need a quarterback to do off the field. The way that he carries himself in the film room, how serious he takes the playbook, what he does – taking care of his body, eating the right way, sticking to a regimen. I watched it. I did a whole feature on him this offseason. I got to spend a day with him and shadow him in the facility and basically cover what a day in the life is for a new Florida quarterback. And this guy was going through an injury on top of that. So for him to get in this position where he has now put himself, it's taken a lot of work and it's taken a lot of commitment. There's a reason why Florida went very hard after this guy and wanted to flip him from Florida State. They needed to have an heir apparent to DJ, and right now he's looking like that. And I'm excited to see what he's going to do because he's definitely going – I think he's going to play at some point this year in at least 4 games and give us a little glimpse of the future.
Okay. Well, we've got just a couple weeks up until the season opener. We still don't really know who that next guy is behind DJ Lagway. But, Zach, we also don't know exactly what's up entirely with DJ Lagway himself.
Sure.
The loss of scrimmage time is important. Billy Napier said last week that, hey, it's not ideal. We as a program are trying to get DJ as much in the film room, as much behind the quarterback so he can visualize everything. They're trying to keep him as involved up here as possible because he only played one season at Florida. His growth, he's still in the middle of this, what is an important growth period.
Sure.
First of all, as you mentioned, DJ Lagway played injured last year. Credit to him. With that 6-1 record as a starter, the only loss being the Georgia game when he left in the second quarter. He then did not throw in spring practice. Again, stood behind the other quarterbacks, mimicked their actions. So you can
handed
learn
the ball off in the
handed the
spring
ball
game.
off. You can learn from that, but you're not developing timing. He wasn't throwing at all. So then he starts throwing a couple weeks later over in Jacksonville with a couple of the QB gurus who are big into the biomechanics and all that stuff, who work with the NFL great quarterbacks. And so he picked up some stuff from there. He's tightened up his throwing motion, all that. So he gets back to Gainesville. He's ready to throw with his boys, and he sustains a calf injury right before fall camp starts. And what that does now is, first of all, he lost all that time throwing to his guys, developing chemistry with his receivers. And then he misses practice time now. So it's not been the greatest offseason to really help this guy's development. So, Zach, that was a big setup. Where do things stand right now with DJ Lagway as we record this show?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think that hopefully in a few weeks and in a couple months, we're all looking back on this and laughing, and it's a non-story. And I think that there's definitely a chance, probably a good chance that'll be the case. But the fact of the matter is where it stands now, it doesn't breed confidence going into the season. I think that what can give you some solace if you're a Florida fan is seeing what DJ Lagway did last year. Knowing that he was not 100% in that LSU game and still went out there and played the way that he did the rest of the season, knowing that what we know now is that he was dealing with this shoulder issue that's only gotten better. He was dealing with that shoulder issue last year when he was making all those throws and plays. So the guy has played hurt. He's fought through injuries. He showed you that he's tough. So I think that so much has been made about first the shoulder, now the calf injury, and the time that he's missed. And again, it is not ideal. It is not good to not be having scrimmage time and seeing live action and being able to throw in 11 on 11 with defenders guarding your receivers, with a pass rush coming after you, with linemen in front of you, all of it. Like he has not seen that since the bowl game. So like that's a long window to go without really getting a true look in a football setting. He has been doing 7-on-7 in training camp. So he's gotten an opportunity to at least get some timing and chemistry developed with his receivers, knock some of the rust off. But it's not good that he has not done any 11-on-11 work, not in the spring, not in the fall. Now, I understand why that's the situation, and it's just unfortunate that he's had two injuries happen like this because, look, if he doesn't have that calf injury before training camp that we reported at Gators Online, he's out there going through all this stuff. He's out there going through scrimmage. He's not limited in any capacity. Maybe they're watching his pitch count, but he's playing in the scrimmages. So, like, he would not be held back right now if he didn't have this new injury that he's dealing with. And it's because of that, it's just a bummer. It sucks for him. It sucks for the team. But I say all that to say, is he talented enough and tough enough to be the kind of guy that can overcome a setback like this? 100%. If anybody can do it, and by it I mean not throw all spring, not do really anything all training camp, and then go out and have a great season and maybe play through some injuries, it's DJ Lagway. But that's the situation that he's in, and that's a lot to ask of the young man. And I think Florida fans are just hoping for the best.
All right, so the concerns would be, again, like you said, he's not facing the live bullets, right? And you look back to last year, statistics were solid for a true freshman. For a senior, they wouldn't have been solid. What would have been solid is the 6-1 record, obviously, and that's really what's important more than anything. But if you look at his passing statistics, 1,900 yards, pretty good. About a 60%.
It's the throws, though.
Yeah, about a 60% completion percentage. Better on middle and deep throws than shorter throws, which is one of the things they worked on when they tightened up his throwing motion to get a little bit more spin on the ball. So you're thinking there's going to be improvement there. But if you had to nitpick one thing, 12 interceptions, solid. Again, in the limited amount of throws, he only attempted about 192 passes. All right. But 9 interceptions in 192 attempts. So that's fairly high. So can you eliminate that? Can you learn from that? Can you get that out of your system? Not all those throws are bad throws. Sometimes the other guy just makes a great play. But
and I'll add real quick that that first one against Miami, Keith, is where he apparently hurt his shoulder worse. Yeah. His shoulder worsened. Yeah. And that was the one where the guy ran into him. Shouldn't have been a pick on DJ, but I just want to mention that.
Yeah. But there were a few that you would say rookie type mistakes.
Yeah.
Rolling to your left.
The bowl game was bad. Going
one way, throwing back across the body and late. What do they say? You're never supposed to throw across the body and late. It's a double dose of danger, right? And those were some of the picks. So can you improve that just by watching film and eliminating those types of errors? So, we don't know. I mean, again, coaches, Zach, for years and years and years have told all of us and everybody listening how important practice is, how important it is to do the scrimmages, to have defenders running at you and seeing that. So now you can't say, well, it's not important because it's, he doesn't need it. But they're not saying that, by the way. They are saying it. Billy Napier is saying, yes, it is important. It's not ideal. We're trying to work through that. So that's what they're doing. So that's one concern. Chemistry with receivers. Obviously, they're building it 7-on-7, individual drills, all that. But he did lose a good bit of the offseason. There are 4 to 5 new receivers, Zach, who are going to play prominent roles this season. J. Michael Sturtevant, transfer from the exciting true freshman. And Nashawn Montgomery, true freshman. Young guy.
Muiz, he's getting starting reps.
That's right. Let's not forget about Muiz Tancora from Texas, who Florida flipped from Arizona late in the cycle last year. So he developed chemistry with those guys. So that's a second concern. Here's another one. And I hate to even bring this up, but you have to because it's kind of what everybody's thinking, Zach. Injuries last year, didn't compete in the spring throwing because of what was deemed by Billy Napier as a lower body / shoulder injury. Then he has a calf injury just from basically running before preseason camps begin. So I guess everybody's wondering, is he injury prone? We know by the way, when you say somebody's injury prone, that has nothing to do with toughness. Okay. We know this dude is tough. A lot of guys wouldn't have played last year. He's still out there playing, taking hits, winning ball games. So we know
he wanted to play at Texas.
That's right. There you go. We know he's tough. But, and you can't answer this, so nobody can answer this, but obviously the concern is he a little injury prone? And if so, how does Florida as a program try to knock that out? How try to prevent that stuff from happening? I don't know that you can. I don't know, who knows, right? But those are kind of the 3 big things that people are thinking about. To me, am I missing anything? And what would be your number one concern with this lost time, Zach? I think you kind of alluded to it already.
Yeah, I would just say I don't think he's injury prone.
Okay.
I think that he is been dealing with a prolonged issue that has worsened. I think that the shoulder injury, correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, do we know when this shoulder, didn't his agent even say that this dates back to high school?
I don't know.
Shoulder issue?
I don't remember whether he said that or not, but I believe there was.
It definitely was going on last season.
That's right. There was some chatter last year that, this is.
He might not play week 2 against Sanford when he was supposed to start because if you go back and watch, for all you Florida fans out there, you can put me back on. Go back and watch the Miami game when Lagway has that interception. The Miami player gets pushed into him, which causes the pick. And apparently that was the play where Lagway injured his shoulder. So, he's been dealing with this. And then on top of that, you have the hamstring. I think that the combination of those 2 things worsened everything. I think that he probably hurt his shoulder more by compensating because of the hamstring. And then I think because he played on the hurt hamstring, it made him susceptible to a calf injury. And along with all the other probably time that he missed, the workouts that he's missed. It's just a bad sequence of events, but it's not like he's having all these different injuries pop up and they're all unrelated. And it's just like, man, every time the guy goes out there, something new pops up. It's all the same stuff that he's been dealing with, which is why I'm sure that they have been so cautious with him to not let these things continue to worsen. All the work that he did in the offseason to strengthen his shoulder, not throwing, changing his mechanics, doing things so that this injury would not get worsen or get stressed anymore. And now, I mean, by all accounts, his shoulder's fine, Keith. He's throwing fine in training camp. He's having no issues. His pitch count is up. He's doing more. He is not doing the 11 on 11, and because his calf can't take it.
Yeah.
They don't want him out there evading the rush, moving in the pocket, potentially getting injured worse. So I mean, that's why he's in the situation that he's in. And I think it's important to point all that out.
Yeah. And obviously I'm just presenting things I know.
Yeah. But no, it is. No, this you're right, Keith. This is the narrative now on him, and it's unfortunate because I don't subscribe to it. I don't think that it's true.
You know, these calf things, you think, how did he get it? Was just this minor, he's jogging, his calf hurts. Why is it still hurting? So I was talking to Chris Doring, Gator great Chris Doring, last week, I want to say. And he said, you know, Keith, I had a calf injury after his playing days. And he goes, yeah, I've never had one. I don't know if you have or not, Zach. Yeah. He said, man, it was more painful than you think. I mean, it was, and it would not go away. He's like, look, I get it wasn't during football. I'm not a quarterback, but I can tell you from experience, I had a calf injury and it was no fun. So, you know, for anybody that might think, you know, why isn't this thing 100% yet? You know, sometimes these things just take time. And, you know, obviously sources have told us they were going to keep monitoring it and I can't even get that word out, monitoring it over and over as much as possible. I mean, look, if anybody is going to get the best healthcare known to mankind, it's going to be DJ Lagway. All right. About his throwing motion, by the way, you know, Zach, you've written about this extensively. They have worked on this. I think mainly the coaches over in Jacksonville that he worked with, and probably you have too. I'm not trying to diminish their role in this, but the times I've been out there, I think he's throwing it a lot better than he was at any point I've ever seen him throw the ball. Zach, remember, I spent 3 days with him out in Texas when he was in high school, or 2 days, excuse me, and yeah, he threw better in a game than in practice, and he didn't always – the spin wasn't always there on the shorter throws, like the 5, 10, 15-yard passes. It's there now. He looks like a different player. Now, whatever they've done, it's working, and he's just got to be healthy. Zach, we don't know. Again, 2 weeks away.
That's the million-dollar question. Go ahead and ask it.
We just spent 28 minutes talking, and they're wondering, is this dude going to play? These two clowns going to tell us if this guy's going to play or what? What's your gut tell? I think somehow they're going to figure out a way to get him in week one, even if it's just a limited role. But what's your gut telling you?
My gut agrees with you.
Okay.
You know, I certainly could see a scenario at this point where he doesn't play at all in that first game. I don't necessarily know that it would be worth it if he's still at a point that you would be concerned about that calf injury. But if he's at a point that he can go out there and run some series, they can make some safe calls that allow him to not just hand the ball off, but even make some throws and run the offense. I think that they're going to go for it, and I think that will be their intention because what better way to make up for all of this lost time than in a matchup like this? No disrespect to Long Island, but I honestly don't necessarily know that I want USF being the first time that he sees live action. I know that they obviously can give him the looks in practice leading into the games, but I feel like Long Island is the perfect scenario, if you were ever going to have an opponent like this on the front end of your schedule, this is the scenario that you need it for. DJ Lagway right now. So whatever he's able to go in there and do, however long he plays and whatever he accomplishes, I think it's a great step forward for him to make up for lost time. And I don't think that you avoid it unless you absolutely have to. Okay. So I think that he'll probably do more than what we saw in the spring game. But he might not play very long, though.
Okay. All right. To try to sum up what we just said, no, DJ Lagway is not in practice sitting in a wheelchair with a blanket over looking like FDR. Okay. He's not convalescing in the facility. He's working to get back to 100%. And, you know, at the highest level of athletics, one of the keys of any organization, any team, is to not rush a star or any player back too soon, because the damage could end up being worse and hurt you and him or her more in the long run. And so you obviously have to avoid those situations. I mean, look, that's obvious. Everybody knows this, but it's worth repeating. All right, Zach.
Let's get an ad read in real quick.
Yeah, let's get an ad read in. What do you got for us?
Our guy, Andy, over at myperfectfranchise.net. If you are ready to leave the corporate rat race for the American dream, looking for a side hustle while working your current job, wanting to diversify, build wealth, and or leave a legacy, Andy can help. He is a franchise consultant as well as a franchise owner, and he helps people find franchises that fit their skill sets, financial requirements, time to commit, and more. His services are 100% free, and he's here to help if you have any questions about business ownership. You can learn more and contact Andy anytime at myperfectfranchise.net or calling or texting him at 404-973-9901.
Yeah, he's a good dude, too. I've talked to him a few times. All right, Zach, next up, we're going to stay on the injury front here. We got a bunch of guys to talk about. Doesn't seem like there's too many major issues, but I think Dallas Wilson, the true freshman receiver, is probably the one that people were one of the guys outside of DJ Lagway that fans are most concerned with or most eager to hear about. Anxious, I don't know what the right word is. So what is the latest on Dallas Wilson, the touted receiver, true freshman, had that unbelievable spring game? What can you tell us about his injury, what it is he's dealing with, and maybe some kind of timeline of a return for him?
Yeah, unfortunately, Dallas is one of the guys that's kind of been banged up with, you know, a minor injury, and I think I'll make more on that point in a moment. But you know, had been in a cast and is basically to the point where it was precautionary from what I was told, and you know, he doesn't have anything broken or anything like that. Doesn't need surgery, so it's just a matter of getting him to the point that he's ready to play. I think the hope is week 1. I don't necessarily – my expectation is probably that he's not going to play that first game just because of the time that he's missed. He was really, really doing well at the start of training camp, was working with the starters, but he didn't get to play in either one of the scrimmages. So, you know, if he gets cleared before the opener, I think that they would let him play, but I wouldn't be surprised also if he doesn't. You're right. He and probably LJ McCray are the guys that are dealing with injuries that could keep them out, you know, maybe the first game. But, you know, we can address, you know, we'll run down the list and we'll talk about these guys. But before we go any further, Keith, like there's been so much that's been made about some of these injuries that have come out of camp. My perspective is that, you know, knock on wood, Florida has been fortunate to not have had any major injuries in camp. Not one. There's been no season-ending injuries. There's been no guys that have suffered serious setbacks where they're looking at missing the majority of the year. What you've had is some guys get banged up. You've had some guys that have had things that they were already dealing with, have a little bit of a setback with, and as a precautionary measure, have missed time. But that's it. I mean, we're talking about guys that are day to day and week to week, maybe some that will miss the season opener, maybe even week 2. but nobody that's been lost for SEC play, and certainly not the season. And given what Florida has went through on the injury front the last couple of training camps, I think fans should feel pretty fortunate about the fact that that's where things stand. I'm sure the staff does. The reason that this has become such a storyline and maybe even a theme with this team is, one, there's been a lot of news about it. But the reason that there's been news about it is because of the guys that have been banged up. It is some of your biggest names on the team: Eugene Wilson, Dallas Wilson, LJ McCray, Caleb Banks. Pup Howard was out for a period of time. I mean, these are big name players. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that I'm missing. Those are the main guys that have been out, but they've all been with minor stuff. Aiden Mizell was out also for a little bit too. He's back. Jaden Ball was even out one day, Keith, and people freaked out, and it turned out that the guy was just sick. And then he had a huge run in the first scrimmage and made one of the plays of the day. So it's not great to have some of these guys that have missed time, because training camp is the time to do that. But look, I've seen Florida lose a lot of guys in camp season and the injuries. That hasn't been the case this year. I think Florida's been pretty fortunate on that front.
Yeah, in my lifetime, there's been some devastating fingers crossed here, preseason injuries. Obviously, Jamari Lyons had the big one last year, the defensive lineman. Zach, I want to point out, you mentioned LJ McCray, edge player, lower body injury, and I think that just happened in a pile-up type thing. We think he's week to week. Zach, a lot of these guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of these guys that are banged up, if Florida was playing Miami in week 1, let's say, they could play, right? I mean, a lot of these guys could play, correct?
100%. 100%. I know that Caleb Banks's thing is minor. Eugene Wilson is already back. Like he's just not going through at this point. I think they're just holding him out. Like but yes, to your question, if it was a big time game, I think he 100% would be out there. But for some of these guys that maybe aren't all the way there, or you just can't afford to lose them, hey, don't let them play week 1. Like, let some of these other guys get an opportunity against Long Island. You should be able to go out there and get the job done. It's just been such a theme with this team, and I don't think it's been that bad.
The benefit of having some veterans maybe miss that first game is that you've got younger guys getting snaps in front of 85 to 90,000 people, some of them for the first time. So then a couple weeks later, there's not that shell shock. They've got through that, a little bit. So you can always find a silver lining in all this. Zach, away from the negative stuff of injuries, though, to the positive stuff, training camp superlatives, and there's a lot of them. Look, everybody's kicking tail this time of year. You know what I mean? You got to go out and do it on Saturdays. But we're hearing a lot of things, a lot of good things about a lot of players, quite frankly. And I wanted to ask you specifically about a couple of them. At linebacker, Pup Howard's back, Jaden Robinson's back. Miles Graham was an all-SEC freshman pick, I believe, last year. And he's good, and all three of those guys are good. But we continue to hear over and over that Aaron Childs, who is 6'3", 245 pounds, is just a man out there and is really ready. Promising freshman season, no doubt about it. But got there last summer, didn't have the benefit of spring, promising freshman season, but making just, a leap forward that is massive right now. And you've written about him. Tell us a little bit about Aaron Childs and what we might see about this standout sophomore linebacker this season.
Yeah, he's been a guy that has generated buzz really since he showed up on campus. Obviously was behind some talented players last year at his position. Tyler Miles called him an alien his first year on campus, and then this year called him one of the freaks in the locker room, one of the top 3 freaks, along with Jaden Baugh and Jaden Woods. So, I think he's really talented. When you think about just his opportunity, I think that linebacker room is stacked. They think it's one of the best in the country, and they're probably not off. I haven't really that's a hard one to predict, honestly, as far as who's going to start, who's going to play the Mike, who's going to play the Will. But it is very apparent that Aaron Childs is going to be a major part of that mix. And just, again, this is just based on how the scrimmages have gone. But he's been working with the starting defense, and he's been paired with Miles Graham, and that's pretty exciting. Pup Howard did not participate in either one of the scrimmages, but he is out of his non-contact jersey. He has been doing team position drills. I think that they're probably just being precautionary with him. And then, Jaden Robinson started the last 4 games of the season at Mike linebacker last year for Florida's 4-game win streak. So just some real talent at that spot. But what Aaron Childs, I think, has done to maybe take a step this offseason, it goes back to that weight room and him being a freak and an alien. It's really showing up on the field. Like, he is such a physical specimen out there. He's very tough coming downhill. He makes a lot of plays. He's gotten much better, according to his position coach, Robert Balla, at diagnosing plays and being able to recognize things. And he just has shown up. That first scrimmage that they had, Keith, we heard about him. He was we were told he was the MVP of the day on defense. Made multiple plays and made them early on in the scrimmage, like right out of the gate, set the tone for the defense that day. So he's just a guy that is clear. He's got it on the football field. He's got it in the weight room. He's certainly got the mentality and work ethic as well. And that might be – it's one of the best rooms on the team. And I put in my intel report after the second scrimmage, Keith, that at least one source I spoke to thought that by the end of the year, that linebacker room might be the best one on the team, also because of the young guys, Ty Jackson and Miles Johnson, who we've just been hearing rave reviews about both of those guys, especially Miles Johnson, who's a summer enrollee. So pretty good room that they got over there at linebacker.
All right. Speaking of young guys, and I'm gonna ask you about 3 or 4 guys, and then I'll just get you to go stream of conscious
Sure.
what you're hearing on guys. But somewhere somebody's listening and they're saying, who's this Jaden Woods guy that Zach's been mentioning? Because Zach, we take for granted we live in this Gator bubble, right? I mean, you're out there a few days a week, and I'm out there a lot too. And to us, Jaden Woods is a name we know a lot, right? But somebody listening may say, all right, I knew that George Gums was back. I knew Tyreek Sapp was back. LJ McCray, Cameron James. Who's Jaden Woods? Okay, so Zach, who is Jaden Woods? He's a freshman edge, true freshman, but who is he and what is he doing that you're mentioning his name more than some guys have been on the team for 3-4 years?
Yeah, I wrote it in our story yesterday, Gators Online, Keith. I think he might be the most anticipated UF freshman in a number 15 jersey since Tebow. And I'm not kidding. Like, that's how much hype this guy has generated in the offseason. And I would also add he might be the strongest UF freshman in a number 15 jersey since Tebow as well. I mentioned the freaks list that Tyler Miles put out. Bruce Feldman included Jaden Woods in his freaks list for 2025, along with Jaden Baugh, who pound for pound is the strongest player that Florida's ever had, and he's a running back. But for Jaden Woods to be on that list as a true freshman says a lot about the guy. He broke all the team records in the weight room at the edge position, broke George Gums' records for the clean, broke it for the squat, and he did it right in coming out of high school. I think of a phrase that C.C. Jefferson used back when I covered him. You remember C.C. Jefferson?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He used to say that he was country strong. And I think that Jaden Woods is country strong coming from Kansas. Bryce Lovett had a great quote this week. He goes, I don't know what he was doing in Kansas before he got here. But the dude is just – he's blowing everybody away. You do not get that type of talk about a first-year player very often, Keith. This is my 16th year covering the Gators. Usually when you get talk like this, it's about a skilled player or maybe even a cornerback coming in. But to have an edge player be talked about in this way, especially with all the players that are in his room that you mentioned. It shows you the type of talent that this guy has. He has been working with the first team defense. He played with the starters in the spring game. He's been playing with the starters in the scrimmage. They are going to get him on the field. And probably the biggest thing that stuck out about him, of all the things that people talked about this offseason and in fall camp, George Gum said that he compared him to Michael Myers. Yes, the serial killer Michael Myers.
Yeah.
So that's the guy that Florida's got coming off the edge this season.
You know, I want to talk about the receiver position. They lost a couple good players, right? I mean,
they did.
Elijah Badger and Shamir DK combined for, I want to say, 81, 82 catches last year. Both of their average yards per catch was like over
ridiculous.
8 yards. Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah.
So they did a lot. Hard to what's the word I'm looking for? Hard
replace
to
that.
Replace those guys. There, a real tough word there. Hard to replace guys like that, right? And also Florida's been sort of banged up. You know, like we said, Dallas Wilson's been out a little bit. Eugene
Mizell.
Mizell
is back though.
Mizell's back, and he's got a lot of potential. But at the receiver position, I'm hearing, and you tell me if I'm wrong, I'm hearing a lot of buzz about a couple of guys. You know, there's a bunch of them. Vernell Brown, big shot, 5-star coming out of high school, Vernell Brown the third, but also J. Michael Sturdivant, who's quietly, you know, because there's so many other things going on. I mean, everybody's focusing on Lagway and Jaden Woods, but I'm hearing a lot of good things about him too. So tell me about the receiver room. That's what I'm hearing. You're more into that program than I am. What receivers are making noise? Because, you know, again, they had some big shoes to replace or to fill.
Yeah, it's interesting because early on in camp, after the first week, we put out a war room at Gators Online and reported that 2 freshmen were working with the starters, one on offense, one on defense. The one on defense was Jaden Woods, and the one on offense was Dallas Wilson, which was a little bit of a surprise because it was actually Vernell Brown the third that had gotten some first team reps in the spring and played with the starters in the spring game. He was with the starting unit and led the team in receiving, by the way, the blue team. But obviously Dallas Wilson went off in that game, and he was getting the reps at the X from what we were told. And what was really interesting was they actually had J. Michael Sturdivant playing in the slot. And then they had Eugene Wilson playing the Z, which is the position that he's always played, but he's been cross-training at the slot too. And I should add that they are cross-training all these guys at all these spots. I don't believe Dallas Wilson had been cross-training. I think he was just focusing on the X. But he's certainly a guy that they were counting on to start, be an impact freshman. And I think this injury that he's dealing with is certainly a setback. It's not going to keep him from being an impact freshman. But it has created some opportunities for some other guys, because not only has Dallas Wilson been out, but Khalil Jackson has still been limited. So that means that the X position is basically wide open. Yes, you can play J. Michael Sturdivant there. You can play Aiden Mizell there. But the guy that's been getting a lot of reps, surprisingly, is Moise. The freshman summer enrollee that Keith mentioned, flipped from Arizona, he's been getting starting reps at the X position, which says a lot about him and also the opportunity that he's had in front of him. So great for Florida to develop that depth there with that guy, and he's made plays. He made catches in the scrimmage. He's made plays at practice. So he's probably one guy that we weren't talking about at all. Because it was really the 3 early enrollees, Vernell, Dallas, and Nashawn Montgomery, who called a touchdown in this past scrimmage. Those 3 were the guys that really generated a lot of the buzz early on. I think J. Michael Sturdivant, to me, it's just kind of just been expected that he was going to come in and be an instant impact guy. And I think maybe a lot of other people have just assumed that, because you're right, Keith, he kind of has like flown under the radar, which he shouldn't have. Like he was their highest rated signee. They didn't sign a lot of transfers this past cycle. They didn't need to, but he was one of the big ones that they got. He was just outside the top 100, and it just hasn't been a lot of buzz about them. He caught that big pass in the spring game, but that was really all he did. I just think there's so much excitement for these freshmen. But J. Michael Sturdivant, 100%, He's going to start for them. He's going to play multiple positions. He is going to be – it'll be interesting. I think he could emerge as the go-to receiver. I wrote this week that Aiden Mizell has the best relationship with DJ Lagway on the team. DJ Lagway looks to him. They got a lot of time last year with the twos, and he's back. So it'll be interesting. Vernell Brown, the third, he's also playing a lot with the starters. He's playing multiple positions too. Those are kind of the main guys that are in the mix. Look, you lost a lot with DK and Badger, but that is still a really, really talented room.
Yeah. All right. Let's just, on offense, give me a couple names of guys that you've heard good things about in training camp.
Yeah. I mean, KD Daniels is probably a name that has emerged for sure. I think that he's pretty much locked up that number 3 running back spot. Jaden Baugh and Jacoby Jackson, to no surprise, both of those guys have played really well. One guy or a couple guys, should I say, that have emerged in camp that Napier singled out and gave some credit to is Amir Jackson and Jason Zandamel. I mentioned Vernell Brown. That was the guy that Napier mentioned as well. But Amir Jackson and Jason Zandamela, those are two, former top 100 recruits. Play key positions where Florida kind of needs them to kind of be the future, and especially Jason Zandamela with Jake Slaughter in his last year. Apparently those two have really made strides in training camp, Keith, and I think that's certainly welcome news for Florida. But those were the guys I'd say on offense.
Okay. What about defense? Obviously, we mentioned Aaron Childs just lighting it up out there. Give us a couple guys over there that people should be excited about how they performed the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, one guy I want to mention, and this is for his performance, but also I want to mention him, Cameron James. We've been hearing great things about that guy since the offseason. I know we had a war room at one point. Keith had some great notes about some of the stuff that the staff was excited about with him. He's Tyreek Sapp is the starter at F, and he's obviously number 1 pass rusher in the nation or edge in the nation coming back. But they are starter 1A and 1B with him and Cameron James. And Billy came out and said Cam James is a starter in our mind. That's how we look at him. He's not a backup. But I was blown away, Keith. I wrote about it at Gators Online by the comments that he made when I asked him about being benched last year for Tyreek Sapp. Cameron James, for those that don't know, started the first 4 games of the season at the F position over Tyreek Sapp. And after the bye week, going into the USF game, they made a change at both of their edge spots. And Cameron was moved back so that Tyreek could start. Now, Cam James still played throughout the season in the rotation, but Tyreek Sapp was the starter the rest of the year. And just to hear Cameron's comments about that, the way that he handled it, the maturity that he showed, not even considering entering the portal, like it was some of the most mature comments that I've heard from a player in my time covering UF about that topic, about handling being benched, because that's not an easy thing to go through for a player. So he's just done nothing but get motivated by that. And I love his quote about envy can be the death of players. Like what a quote. Envy can be the death of players. So he's just been motivated by Tyreek Sapp, hasn't been jealous of him and his success, and understands, hey, that was the right move to start him over me. He ended up being one of the top pass rushers in the nation. So that was a long answer. Sorry about that, Keith.
That's all right. That's like one of mine.
Yeah, Cam James, I would say Miles Johnson. He's another one that has emerged.
Freshman linebacker.
Yeah, great things about true freshman linebacker. And then probably Lagonza Hayward. I think that he's probably the young defensive back that has stepped up and probably shown that he's going to be able to be counted on. And then Ben Hanks. I would say right now has solidified himself as probably the 4th cornerback in the rotation, which means he's on the 2 deep on defense.
Wow, that's good stuff, Zach. All right, we're going to wrap things up here shortly, but Zach, if you can remove that training camp superlatives,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to throw in. Look at this amazing graphic. Make sure if you like what we're doing, if you don't like what we're doing, forget about it. But if you like what we're doing, hit the like button and the subscribe button down below. Feel free to leave a comment. We try to get in and answer some of them. And as always, make sure you go to gatorsonline.com for even more great info and intel from the crew on our staff. Zach, the season is just a couple weeks away, August 30th at home in the Swamp against Long Island University. There's still a lot to shake out the next couple weeks in practice. What's up with DJ Lagway? Who would be the guy after him? There's position battles. That seems like most of the starting positions we kind of know, but there's a lot of second team battles that need to be won by people. And obviously at a lot of positions, that's important because like on the defensive line, for example, there's a heavy rotation used. But so far, it's been a fairly good camp. The reviews are positive. It seems like the staff is energized and excited about what they've seen. A lot of great player interviews. They're, giving some great insight, and people are buying into this team. 15th in the Associated Press preseason top 25, 17th in the coaches poll. So there is some buzz about the Florida Gators. But with 2 weeks to go, Zach, just your overall thoughts on where things stand right now, and whatever else you want to say.
Yeah, I'll start on the defensive side of the ball. I think that defensively, Florida has the pieces and the talent and the depth to have one of their best defensive units that they've had probably in the past decade. Certainly since the McElwain, Muschamp eras. I think that they've got a chance to have a better defense than they had any time under Mullen. And it's just because of the pieces that they got in all three levels, the depth that has emerged. I think that we were maybe a bit concerned about the defensive line depth and the secondary depth heading into training camp. I don't have any concerns for Florida's D-line depth, right? Not after the way some of these freshmen have stepped up and some of the other guys that have just improved in the offseason, bulked up. They have enough horses in there to have a great D-line rotation. And I mentioned some of the young players in the secondary that have stepped up. So I think that, barring injuries, Keith, this is going to be one of the best defenses that Florida has had in the past decade. And I feel good about that going into the season. I think Ron Roberts has got it figured out, and he's going to do a good job upstairs. And then on the offensive side, man, they've got all the pieces around DJ. They've got talent at receiver. The running back room is deep. I didn't mention the two true freshmen, but I did in my intel report. Those guys have gotten rave reviews as well. Like Florida's running back room is stacked. They've had Amir Jackson emerge at tight end with Hayden Hansen and Tony Livingston, which I think is important. They feel great about their two deep on the offensive line. Jason Zandamela has emerged as the center. Like they've got everything that they need, except for a solidified backup quarterback and a healthy starting quarterback.
Yeah.
And those are the two biggest things that you need. So, if one of those guys go out there and play well the first couple games, granted that Florida is able to build a big lead against Long Island and USF, and we get to see some of these other quarterbacks behind Lagway. If one of those guys can play very well and solid and produce, I'll feel better about the situation behind DJ, and I know fans will as well. And then it's DJ. I mean, literally the season rests on his shoulders. If he goes out there and plays to his ability and he's available, this team can go as far as it wants to go. But if he's still hampered, if he is still maybe limited the first couple weeks of the season, that does change the dynamics a little bit going into that LSU game, which is going to be a hell of a matchup to open conference play with. So we're going to find out a lot about this team those first 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Obviously we got DJ is the key to this whole thing, but the other key to me is I see the pieces, the individual pieces look good at every position, right? How's it all going to fit together? One, and two, a lot of those individual pieces with this potential need more consistency, right? Tyreek Sapp, Cameron James, give you a perfect example. Caleb Banks, dominant in a couple games last year, not so dominant in a lot of the other ones. They need that dominant guy for every game, right? That's what takes you to that next level, right? More consistency from Eugene Wilson, more consistency from
DJ Lagway.
More consistency from Pop Howard. Aiden Mizell's going to rise. So the talent is there. The individual pieces are there. And we're all going to see soon how those pieces fit together, because you don't win with just a couple of guys. You got to win like this, right? So anyway, that will do it for this edition of the Gators Online Show. But before we go, if you are looking to sponsor this show, all right, we've got some sponsors, but if you're looking to join the club and be part of this family, we're open. We're open to listening to what you might have to pitch. So you can message me at Keith.Niebuhr. There's my name right there on the screen, KEITH.NIEBUHR @on3.com. And we'll get the ball rolling. We'd love to have some more show sponsors. We love doing these things. We love having you here. And again, go down below, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend about it, and leave comments. Like I said, good or bad. We'll just delete all the bad ones anyway, Zach. I just go through and get rid of those. But again, thank you so much to everybody for stopping by and hanging out with us. We're going to have another one of these hopefully soon, and certainly next week as well. For Zach, I am Keith. This was the Gators Online Show. We're back. We're better than ever, and we're excited about this 2025 season, and we'll talk to everybody soon. Take care.